Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. The economic situation in the country is just not great right now, and things are getting worse and worse for almost every American. And this isn't just vibes either. We've got some data, some definitive proof. Today, we learned that inflation hit nearly 4% last month. That's the largest increase of Trump's entire second term as president. And crucially, those increases in prices are now outpacing wage gains, meaning workers are actually seeing less take-home pay. Now, to be clear, usually inflation is mostly out of the president's control, at least directly. Fiscal policy might play some role, but there are usually external factors driving it, like, for instance, the post-COVID supply shocks that plagued the Biden administration, followed close on its heels by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. That is not the case here, though. This is really one of those rare cases where it's the president. I mean, the war in Iran has pushed inflation to its highest rate in 3 years. Gas prices are high because Donald Trump made them that way. Single-handedly, Donald Trump caused this crisis by waging a pointless war on Iran. And voters understand it, too. According to one poll, 70% of Americans disapprove of Trump's handling of the economy. 70%. 77%, even a majority of Republicans, say he is responsible for the rise in their cost of living. Another poll found Americans overwhelmingly believe that prices were lower under President Biden than Trump, everything from ground beef to housing to electricity. And remember, I mean, at one level that's true. Prices tend to go up over time, so they were lower before. But remember this, right? We were all there in 2024. Donald Trump's the guy who won the election by convincing voters that he was going to lower the cost of living, that he would bring down prices on day one. He has done the exact opposite. From tariffs to the war on Iran. Instead of trying to go out there and persuade voters to get back on his side, he is telling them directly that with every last cell in his 79-year-old body, he couldn't possibly care less.
Mr. President, to what extent are Americans' financial situations motivating you to make a deal?
Not even a little bit. The only thing that matters when I'm talking about Iran, they can't have a nuclear weapon. I don't think about Americans' financial situation. I don't think about anybody. I think about one thing. We cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. That's all. That's the only thing.
Two things there. Remember when the Trump administration bombed Iran last year and said they had completely obliterated Iran's nuclear program, that anyone who questioned that was essentially treasonous? One. Two, he says he's talking about Iran when he says this, but it's politics, okay? The president has to own everything he says. And those 12 words there, you might have seen them before you even tuned into this program tonight. They tell you everything you need to know about your president, an attitude that is on display in public every single day, all day long.
I don't think about Americans' financial situation. I don't think about anybody. I think about one thing.
Yeah, yes, you don't think about Americans' financial situation. You don't think about anybody. We see it all the time. The man is totally checked out. He demonstrated as much as he always does during an Oval Office meeting this morning, where, boy, it sure looked like he dozed off for a full 17 seconds. Maybe, charitably, he was just resting his eyes, or he was just looking down into the what? The most charitable explanation when you watch this happen, and it happens every day, as we have to sit here and watch this man doze off or check out, is the guy is bored out of his mind. He is the most bored man in history, our president. And all he cares about, and it's palpable and it's obvious, is the little pet projects he's assigning himself. Demolishing the East Wing of the White House so he can build his expensive ballroom, redoing the reflecting pool at the Lincoln Memorial, both at taxpayers' expense. When MS Now reporter Akayla Gardner questioned Trump on the ballooning cost of just those two pet projects, he lashed out.
So what happened is we have a ballroom that's under budget. It's going up right here. I've doubled the size of it because we obviously need that. And we're right now on budget, under budget, and ahead of schedule. I doubled the size of it, you dumb person. It's double the size. You are not a smart person.
Oh, yeah, you doubled the size of it, and so the budget went up? I mean, the cost is more than doubled. What the President of the United States did not do there is actually answer the question from our excellent reporter who posed it to him as to why these projects are worthy of those expansive budgets at our expense, or why the reflecting pool has gone up 7x. His ballroom budget seems to increase every time he mentions it, and it started that it was all going to be donated, and now there's $1 billion that just magically appeared in the latest Republican bill for it. When it comes to the reflecting pool, the Interior Department now says it will cost more than 7 times what Trump said it would. And that was a great question from Michaela, because he wanted to criminally prosecute Jerome Powell over cost overruns, right? This reflecting pool, this little pet project, the one that he joyrode over, the one he talks about, the one he's weirdly obsessed with, it's got more than $13 million of cost overruns so far. And get this, as the Times reports, you might be shocked to hear this, the bidding process for that contract looks as corrupt as you're thinking. Trump supposedly consulted 3 companies that had worked on his swimming pools and then ultimately picked one that worked on his National Golf Club in Sterling, Virginia. Essentially, Trump said he knew a guy.
I said, you know, Doug, I have a guy who's unbelievable at doing swimming pools. Up the road, we have a club. We have an Olympic-sized swimming pool. He did it 20 years ago.
Well, if he did Trump's Olympic-sized pool, I'm sure he'll be great with the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool built in 1922 that is very definitively not a swimming pool that you should not swim in, by the way. According to the Times, the government awarded that firm a no-bid contract last month, bypassing the requirement to seek competing offers by saying the situation was so urgent that any delay would cause serious injury to the government. The government has not publicly said what that injury would have been. You gotta love New York Times bone dry house style on that one. Now, the Trump administration says the rising costs are a result of their desire to get the project done ahead of July 4th. Obviously, you need to have turquoise blue on the bottom of the reflecting pool by then. But, quote, government documents obtained by the New York Times show the contract's current value matches down to the dollar an offer submitted to the government by the firm in the middle of last month. In other words, this is the original contract. That offer included a 20% profit margin, the documents show. A 20% profit for some guy on a no-bid contract, $13 million, 7x toss overruns. And again, it's a small story in the scope and scale of what Donald Trump's up to, but it's a pretty illuminating one, right? I mean, these are the kinds of no-bid contracts that are ripe for political corruption. That's what Trump is preoccupied with right now, with prices what they are currently, with no end in sight. I don't know how many Americans are thinking about refinishing their pools this summer. Maybe just Trump, perhaps all the oil CEOs who are getting filthy rich from your rising gas prices.